comfortably seated.
外面有椅子，外面准备了3张。
So we will have about we scheduled to end, but we can extend it to 20 past 6, so we will have about half an hour. Questions will come. Maybe just a brief report of your demands and history.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Heather from Suzhou University English Department. I would like to give my deepest thanks for our two speakers today who have traveled all the way to Hsinchu to give us such insightful speeches. And my question is mainly for Professor Stiegler concerning the issue of automation and the use of language. But I believe Professor Xu Yu also has much to say about AI and the transformation of the humans. I remember in Professor Stiegler's your work, the neck entropy. You mentioned the chapter. I remember it's in the second chapter. You mentioned about the problem of automation and criticize the current practice of knowledge automatization of being a closed and entropic system. And you also suggest that a new criteria for us to escape the deadlock is the capacity for this automatization. And this term is also, you just mentioned it in your speech too. Okay, so because this automatization or manual work is what produces entropy and knowledge. So I'd appreciate it if you could explain a little bit how should we cultivate this capacity for this automatization for our young people today, or how to make this automatization happen possible when the process of automation is almost like it has gone viral and it has become almost the new standard today. I'm asking you this question because as a translator and as a teacher of translation, I'm also asking myself how to persuade my students to practice the technique of translation. I mean, translation between Chinese and English. How to practice the technique of translation manually on their own when the Google Translate has become so handy for them to use. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's collect maybe a couple of questions and then, any questions?
Myself, I have a request. Is it possible to stop the air conditioning? Yes, because I'm just in the shower of the. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure whether it's.
Thank you. I'm sorry because I feel it. Think it's good. Maybe I will try to answer your question. Thank you very much. You asked three questions. How to disautomatize in the very automatized world in which we are. That is the Gestalt. The reality of Gestalt. And what about young people, first, and second, what about translation? I believe first that concerning young people, the problem is that if we want to answer such a question concerning young people, we must also answer the question concerning ourselves. Because we cannot do anything for young people if we are not capable to do it for ourselves first. Myself, I try to manage in an experiment, a social experimentation in the north of suburbs of Paris, what is called a clinique contributive. The stake is to disintoxicate young, very, very young children from their laptop. I don't find my own laptop. But for that, if I want to contribute to this process of disintoxication of the children, I must disintoxicate myself first. And when I say that, I don't say that I must not intoxicate myself. I say that I must have a curative practice of poison. And the problem is time, because everybody knows now that this happened 10 years ago, this and social networks in the same time, 10 or 12 years ago. That is shorter than the generation, the time of a generation. And it completely destroyed the relation between generations, the relations of the relationship between generations. And if we want to take this extremely dangerous situation into account, we had a question about revolution on Saturday in Taipei. We must really make a revolution, a really cultural revolution, the real cultural revolution we need, and that didn't happen yet. What is such a cultural revolution? It is to understand that such an exosomatized organ constitutes not only the soul, the psychic apparatus, but the relationship between the psychic apparatuses, and that a psychic apparatus is not inside the body, is not inside the brain, it is in the what I call noetic necromass. And for example, when a baby comes to the world, he or she is introduced in such a world through a practice of exosomatized things that are called transitional objects, the teddy bear, etc., etc. And if we want to address this question concerning of automation and disautomatization, we must first address this question. And we also must analyze what is the status of automation, automatisms in life in general. For example, a cell, a biological cell, is a series of automatic instructions. And the relationship between DNA and RNA is, first of all, the concrete production, in the sense of Heidegger, production of such automatisms as they are capable to produce disautomation. That is entropy, negentropy, in the sense of Schrödinger. So we have to revisit all these questions. So it is an incredible epistemological revolution that we have to do. If we are not capable to do that, everything will be finished. Now, this is a completely discouraging discourse, because we cannot do that. Yes, we can. As said, not Donald Trump, I don't remember the other. It's a joke. No, yes, we can. We can do it. And for example, your question about translation. Myself, I teach in China for 5 years now. Next year, I will come with an automatic translator in my pocket. Because I'm tired now when I am always asking to everybody to help me, etc. I want to be able to take a taxi, for example, with my automatic translator because, and I think it's a good way for learning Chinese. When I arrived the first year, I tried to learn Chinese. And after 3 weeks, I said no. I stopped. Because everybody was laughing when I tried to speak Chinese. Because I was not capable to manage the pronunciation, particularly. So, and I am not very young, so I said I don't have time for investing such knowledge. But I think it is possible to find another way. And in fact, I say that it is because actually it's a project I have with Yuk Hui in Hangzhou Academy of Arts to develop a laboratory on automatic translation, or using it for desautomatizing automatic translation. Why do I say that? Actually, I wanted to show you a picture when in my talk, and I forgot to show it. So I will show it now, if it's possible. Just need to connect my laptop. Yeah, thank you. I know it's not this one. I'm not changing. Yeah, I want to. I look for the picture. I try to show. I wanted to show you an interface I created in my laboratory, l'Institut de Recherche et Innovation in Paris, and you can see here a screen, and this screen, what you can see at the top of the screen, it's The Republic by Plato. Myself, I am it's a video recording actually. It's a screen from a video recording. The video recording is a recording of the course I gave on Plato. And when I talked, my students took notes, but those notes were implemented in the flux, in the time code of the video. And what I want my students to do is, after my course, with an analysis that should become automatic. At the moment it is not automatic because we didn't find the money for developing that. But the idea was to produce an automatic analysis and to give to the students automatic recommendations. You should have a look on this student here. He says exactly the contrary of what to say. And what is this? This is red, this is green, this is blue. And you have also a code in yellow, but you cannot see it. You can see it only if you click on one of these. It's for what we call meta-categories of reading. Opposition, resistance, questioning, troubling, etc. is red. So you can disagree with what he said with someone, even if it's your professor, or you can claim you don't understand, or you can say, I understand, but it is overcoming my understanding. It's not comprehension, it is what I call surprehension or overprehension. Beyond prehension. That's interesting because prehension, understanding is Verstand in German, you know. And for me, Kant says Vernunft go beyond Verstand. So it is a synthesis of this, what passed through this intellectual intuition, so said by you. Now, this question of intellectual intuition is very complicated, so I will not develop that. But here I consider that it is possible to use automatisms, algorithms for producing disautomatization. Why? Because the stake here is to make the students confronting their own notes, their own interpretation, and producing what I call an automatic dialectic, in the sense of Socrates. If for Socrates, dialectic is not the sense of Plato in Phaedrus, but it is a sense of dialogism. That is, it's only by confronting with someone that you can find something. And or if you can find something by yourself, it is because you are two. It is noesis. You know, the noesis is never unified. Well, I say that because the idea is, we had a discussion with the director of the Academy of Art of Hangzhou. One day he wanted to create an international laboratory, and we said, but the problem is the level of language of your students. And he said, no problem, you can use a machine for translating. And we said, no, it's not possible. Because when you translate Kant, you cannot use a machine or... But it's wrong. Myself, I use a lot. Google, for example. That is also the translation, the automatic translation on WeChat. That is using the translator of Google. And it works very well. It's extremely efficient. Nevertheless, we know that it is destroying language. We know that because a mathematician, a polytechnician, the name is Kaplan, Frédéric Kaplan, explained for mathematical reasons, the reasons for which it's necessarily destroying language, because it produces feedback loops, negative feedback loops, by reducing the diversity, and progressively it destroys the evolution of language. And we know from Saussure that language is only significant by its own evolution, its transformation, the syntactic rules, the semantic richness, etc., etc. And we know from Aristotle that logos is based on the relationship to language. So if we agree with that, we are understanding that these technologies are destroying the logos, the noises, the possibility to think. But the bad attitude is the one of Heidegger here, the rejection of calculation. You must not at all reject calculation. You must appropriate calculation to produce with automation disautomatization. You can disautomatize only what is automatized. So how to produce something different? And we believe that today it should be very important to create a laboratory of design that would be based on the process of designing disautomatization with automata. And for that, I continue to believe that the good field for doing that would be translation. Maybe we could connect with you, because myself, a friend of mine who is a French guy, but he was in Brazil for a long time, and so Germany created a software that is called Traductio. Do you know it? Yeah? And it creates also communities of translators. It doesn't use automatic translation, but I believe now it should introduce automatic translation for producing a critique of automatic translation, but you cannot critique what you don't practice. So the idea is here, it's possible to disautomatize what is automatic. If you have created a tool for criticizing it. And I will stop with one thing. Myself, I am very interested in this question of automation and disautomatization. And I talked about this question to two persons. The first one is the boss of Dassault Systèmes. Dassault Systèmes is a big company producing very high-level softwares for engineering, mainly for air industry at the beginning, but now for everything. And I said to him that I am interested in the question of how is it possible by the integration of automatisms to overcome automatisms. And I explained to him that I discussed that with a very famous actor in France. The name is Denis Podalides from the Comédie Française, one of the most important actor, with who I discussed the paradox of Diderot. Do you know the paradox on the actor by Diderot? He says to be a good actor, you must be able to repeat every day the same role. One day you are very happy, the day after you are very sad, but you must play the same role, and you must not show that you are sad or happy, because you must become an automat. Now, it doesn't say that you can replace the actor by a machine. No, he says if you are an automat, you can disautomatize yourself, and you can suddenly break your role and produce something completely different. I had a discussion with Denis Podalides about this, and he told me, yes, it is exactly what happens. At La Comédie Française, you play sometimes 250 times the same play, so for 2 years. And it's extremely hard for the actors. So it's very difficult to produce every day something really good. And he told me every evening after going back in my lodge, I think today was bad. I was an automat. I was a machine. And my friends who knows really my work saw that. So I'm in shame. And sometimes the automat produces something completely surprising. That is a process of disautomatization. In such a case, I'm very well. I am a king, you know. I said that to the boss of Dassault Systèmes, and he told me, myself, I work for Peugeot, that is a car company, and for pilots, comment on appelle ça, les voitures de course, racing cars. Those guys run at 400 kilometers an hour on a circuit that is very, very short, very small. And it's extremely dangerous to do that. They must completely submit their behavior to the automatisms of the car, in which you have a computer. But the one who will win the race is the one who will be able to disautomatize and to take a risk. It's very dangerous. But it's only if you are able to take this risk that you can win. So I think it is very, very important, because here you don't oppose automatic and disautomatization. You compose with that. And I think it is also the question of the operator we talked about previously.
Okay, was there a question for
let's hear or gather several questions. I think the audience are here to raise questions, to participate in discussion. So let's just hear a couple of questions. I think we're down here, and maybe others.
So let's collect a few questions. Questions?
Thank you, professors, for your insightful presentations. My name is Lungani. I'm a student, PhD student here. And so my question is, like recently there's a lot of talk about the algorithm in the city. And so I would like to know like the spatial impacts of the algorithms on cities, and more specifically on labor. So I guess my question is like, what is how does the technological become the political and the personal? Thank you.
More questions? We have a limited time, so I seize the opportunity. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you too for this very interesting, important talk. I have only one very simple question. That is, you talked about the project of deproletarianization, or you mentioned or remind us to read or reread Heidegger with Marx. And of course, we are very familiar with Marx and Heidegger and their analysis of how people or human beings are alienated from their late work in this production chain or automaton of the production chain. But when we are facing the automaton reproduction, that is a huge organ of the government. Okay, so how do we, as individuals from different societies, for example, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, or Vietnam, or South Africa, and Palestine, how do this intellectual intuition, which could participate or partake this creation or creative automaton, and all this bifurcation you mentioned, that could create more and more policing and governmentality technique for different governments. So this very minute macro creativity, how could it resist this huge, gigantic reproduction, and also this political economic machine that's actually attracting every government to participate. Okay, so I'm just curious about how there's a cybernetic work and there's all this neck Anthropocene. I believe this is appealing to this negativity, this pure dialectic move. But I think that this could go in all different ways. But in the modes of Marx, his critique, his analysis, and also Heidegger, his rethink the power, the use of the language, how does a cybernetic machine, or I mean, when that is really employed by government or by this logistics of financialization and everything. Yeah, so there's so gigantic. How does this either intuitive creativity or this automaton in this? So how does that really work when we are facing this historical repercussion and this the government, the huge organ? Okay.
I'm Chen Kelun. I'm the postdoctoral researcher here. I would like to raise one simple question, because we know that in the contemporary scientific ideology, always say to reach the unknown, to discover the newest, to bring out the newest. When you talk about the technique and the idea, and you say that these are the, as Heidegger always says, that the idea is the hidden. And so how you, and at the end of your speech, you talk about the collective poiesis, poetic production, and to bring out maybe everything. So how you elaborate this, the hidden, how you bring it out, is that the newest? Is that the new one? Just like the contemporary scientific ideology which says that we have to always find the unknown, to excavate the unknown, to extract, to suck out all the unknown, to bring out the concept efficiency, something like that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That would be our last questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this question, but I think to continue the discussion with Bernard and also your question concerning translation, and also maybe we have to discuss also the limit of the paradox of the chameleon by Diderot. It's precisely because we are not dealing with a simple tool anymore. We are living in the gigantic machines, which Professor Liu has said that from the analysis of Marx, what Marx described